Hello strangers, the date today is Thursday the 22nd of November. So several months ago I was in Cornwall staying with my dad. Now although I caught food poisoning, which meant I was practically bedbound for 4 out of 7 days that I was down there, I did manage to visit a little hamlet called Indian Queens. Now supposedly, this village is called Indian Queens because Pocahontas, the Native American queen, visited the village when she was touring England in the year 1616.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
Pocahontas was not a Native American queen. She never visited Indian queens in Cornwall, and her name wasn't even Pocahontas. In fact, the real story of Pocahontas actually pisses me off. So just a quick side note before we begin, this video is going to be dark, so trigger warning for rape and murder and for a few swear words on my part, so you have been warned. Now you might be familiar with the Disney film Pocahontas. That's how I first learned about the story. So in the film, John Smith is a dashing young hero. Pocahontas is in her late teens, and only their love for each other can prevent a war between the British settlers and the Native Americans. That really couldn't be further from the truth. The real Pocahontas was around 10 years old when John Smith arrived and established Jamestown in 1607. John Smith was working for the Virginia Company, whose job it was to establish a British colony in the name of King James I, and to create more crops, and with that, more gold for the crown. Now, as soon as John Smith arrived with the settlers, they realised they were undersupplied and unprepared for the climate. Because of this, he started trading with the Powhatan tribe, Pocahontas' people. This is most likely where Pocahontas first met John Smith. Now, Pocahontas would have been around 10 years old at the time, and she wasn't one with nature, as the Disney film will make you believe. Likewise, John Smith wasn't a dashing hero. He was short, he was fat, and he was a sadist. Now, though Pocahontas was the daughter of a chief, the term princess didn't exist in the Powhatan culture. In their culture, each member of the tribe had different names, different occasions. Pocahontas was known as Matoaka to her family. Over time, the British became more hostile to the Native American tribes. John Smith would march into their camps, hold their leader at gunpoint, steal their food and water and supplies. Then he would throw some beads on the ground, claiming he had traded with them. Native Americans were forced to defend themselves, and eventually they captured John Smith. This leads to another big line of Pocahontas' story. In the Disney film, and in many other retellings, Pocahontas saved John Smith's life by halting his execution by flinging her body on top of his. John Smith was never in any real danger. He was treated relatively well by the tribespeople, and he was later simply released back into Jamestown. Although he would have been in the same location as Pocahontas during his capture, there would have been very little interaction between them. A year later, John Smith was injured by a gunpowder explosion and sent back home to England for his injuries to be treated. The Powhatan tribe were told that he had died of his injuries. It was shortly after John Smith left Jamestown that Pocahontas became of age and was considered a woman by her tribe. She married a man called Kocoum and had a child together. Also at this time, John Rolfe arrived from England with the intention of growing tobacco to sell for profit. In the year 1613, Pocahontas was kidnapped by the British and held for ransom on one of their ships. There's lots of conflicting reports on what exactly happened. The Powhatan oral tradition says that the British deliberately targeted Pocahontas because she was a daughter of a chief, and in their eyes a princess. Other reports said Pocahontas willingly sacrificed herself to defend her tribe. When the ransom was paid, Pocahontas wasn't released, and she was kept as a hostage for a year by John Rolfe. During her kidnapping, she was raped by John Rolfe and his men, forced to convert to Christianity, given a new Christian name Rebecca, and then forced to marry John Rolfe, which in the British point of view would abolish them of any sins they had committed. At the time of their marriage, John Rolfe was 29 years old. Pocahontas was around 16. The deadline set by the Virginia Company for John Rolfe to grow his crops was almost up, and he hadn't produced nearly enough crops to please his investors. To remedy this, John Rolfe captured members of local Native American tribes, so not just Pocahontas' people, but lots of other tribes as well, and forced them to help him grow the crops. In the year 1616, the crops were harvested, and John Rolfe returned to England, with Pocahontas as his wife, going by the name Rebecca, their son, Thomas, the crops, and several other captured Native American tribespeople. And rather surprisingly, and frustratingly, I wasn't able to find much evidence of what Pocahontas did in England. I know she didn't visit Injun Queens in Cornwall, as the village is named after a pub, much like my old university stomping ground, Elephant and Castle. We know that Pocahontas was introduced to King James I, although she didn't understand what a king was. We know she is paraded around London at high society events to promote investors for the next campaign by the Virginia Company to the New World. We know she met John Smith again in Whitehall, and they had an argument of some kind, but again we don't know the details. On her return voyage to America, Pocahontas caught smallpox and died. Her grave is in a town called Gravesend, which is 10 minutes away from me. Her statue is here, and historians think that she is buried under the floor here. Because the church had a fire, the building was destroyed. It's hard to know for certain. Quick note, the fact that town is called Gravesend is purely coincidental and nothing to do with Pocahontas at all. What really annoys me, strangers, and anyone else who's watching this video, is that when I was on a history tour about a couple of months ago now, the guide told us the Disney version of the story, accompanied by the facts John Smith wrote in his book when he returned to England after his gunpowder accident. When I called the guide up on this afterwards, he said the following: "I know it's not the best version of the truth, Jack, but it's the version of the truth everyone would rather hear." Sorry, what? It's your job as a historian to tell people the truth about history, no matter how harsh or how inconvenient it is. And that's what I'm doing. I'm telling you the truth, strangers. So Disney are currently turning their old animated classics into live-action films, such as Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella, and I think Dumbo's coming out soon. I pray Pocahontas won't be among the new films, and I really hope Pocahontas is removed from the Disney princess lineup overall. Thank you for watching, if indeed you still are. A quick shout out to Savvy Brenner, who I've been talking to about the script for about 6 months now, more or less, and thank her for helping me with the pronunciation of some of the words, even though I'm sure I've got a few of them wrong. But thank you for your help. Strangers, I will see you next Thursday. I hope you have a lovely week. Take care.